opportunities to embrace the underserved communities.
White privilege!
Load up,
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
Here in New York, as many as 10,000 people surged through the streets and surrounded the barricaded-off Trump Tower where Donald Trump lives.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
reject the president! Load up, load up, load up. We're rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
I think it speaks to the disenfranchisement of the people that someone like him could be seen as offering anything to the masses.
Load up, load up, load up. We're rubber bullets.
Little snowflake falling from the sky.
What about gay people? Trump has vowed to protect the LGBT community from a fanatical ideology that represents its biggest threat: radical Islam.
As your president, I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens from the violence and oppression of a hateful foreign ideology.
Load up, load up, load up. We're rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake, falling, 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 falling.
He is a racist.
Under Obama, more black people are living below the poverty line. The number of African Americans on food stamps has increased 58% under Obama.
On every leading economic issue, on the major economic issues, black Americans have lost ground in every one of those leading categories. So for the last 10 years, it's not been good for black folks.
Is this how the left helps black communities? By making them poorer and more dependent on government. Race relations are at their worst in decades. 8 years of Obama has been devastating for the black community.
He is a sexist. He is a neo-Nazi.
Well, we don't understand why you called in the National Guard.
Falling on my nose.
Not my president. He is a lying ass.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake,
Fake ass.
little snowflake falling from the sky.
Dumb ass son of a bitch.
Load up, load up, load up. We're rubber bullets.
Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake, falling, 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 falling.
That's not my president. That's not my president. Load up, load up, load up. We're rubber bullets.
Falling in my hand,
Thank you for taking America back 60 years of progress.
falling on my head,
You just voted in a Nazi fascist.
falling on my nose, falling in my hand. Snowflake, snowflake, little snowflake.
What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do?
The following is a Nightside Radio Studios production.
From the wind-powered Nightside Radio Studios,
Tear down this wall.
this is the J.J. McCartney Show.
It's this man. It's the compassion. It's the dignity. It's the wisdom. It's the horse sense of the guy.
Did you know that 65% of the people murdered in the last 10 years were killed by handguns?
Would it make you feel any better, little girl, if they was pushed out of windows?
The American people have seen the truth, and they can see through your lies. There's coming a day when publications such as yours turn into nothing more than flea market advertising. They'll be handing it out for free in grocery store parking lots under everybody's windshield wiper. Yeah, that's the future for the Washington Post and the New York Times and every other liberal publication in this great country. We are not going to tolerate your bull anymore. None of it. The American people are fed up. I thought we made that clear on November 8th, but apparently you people in the media just don't get it. A new chapter in American history begins now.
It is my high honor and distinct privilege to introduce to you the President-elect of the United States of America.
Donald Trump is the person to make America great again.
We are a team.
They said it couldn't be done.
Together, we will lead our party back to the White House.
He said it must be done.
Beginning on January 20th, we cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. The most important difference between our plan and that of our opponent is that our plan will put America first.
Here's J.J. McCartney.
Yes, thank you, Marcus, and welcome, everybody. Welcome to your Thursday, the 14th day of December. We've got Michael Cutler in the house, and we've got breaking news today, which I think will be an early Christmas present, if it turns out to be true. And we've got open phone lines, too. Questions, we've got answers. I can't tell you if they're the right answers, but we've got answers anyway. You stick around, ladies and gentlemen. The J.J. McCartney Show gets underway next. All right, welcome, everybody. Good to have you with us today, and welcome to our good friend, 30-year special agent at the INS, and now he is popular on the speaking circuits, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Cutler. Welcome, Michael.
Always good to join you, JJ. Thank you so much for having me on. Always great joining you.
Well, it's good to have you. You sound great, by the way.
Yeah, I'm almost over whatever miserable bug set up shop. It was a tough week, but I'm glad to join you today, finally.
Yeah, somebody sent me a very, very strained vocal cords this week. I don't know who did that, but I told Susan, my wife, yesterday, I said, I'm glad tomorrow's Thursday because all I have to do is sit back and let Michael talk. Well, Michael, first of all, breaking news today, Paul Ryan indicating that he's going to be leaving Congress in 2018. And
wow.
He's going to be stepping down as Speaker of the House and leaving Congress at some point in 2018. I'm almost getting the feeling that Paul Ryan is trying to be the Republican Al Franken. I'll resign sometime in the weeks to come. That type thing. Obviously there are big differences between Al Franken and Paul Ryan, but I think this is significant news, certainly on the heels of the tax reform, which we see moving towards the desk of President Trump. And then, of course, today is the 5-year anniversary of Sandy Hook, for those people that remember back on that terrible day. And of course, now that we're on the air, that's when the dogs decide to go nuts.
And why not? Release the hounds. Release the hounds.
That's right. That's right. Well, Michael, what's up in your world?
Well, I'm writing for capsweb.org, and we expect that I'll be doing that. I have a bunch of articles up on Front Page Magazine, and I just wrote an article, and this is something that I had raised when I was at the Tea Party convention during the second re-election, unfortunately, of Mr. Obama. But during that run-up, there was a Tea Party convention in Myrtle Beach. I was one of the people asked to speak to the convention. And I wound up having a debate with Newt Gingrich at the bar afterwards. And I said, Mr. Speaker, with all the talk about the need to create jobs, why does no one talk about the need to liberate jobs? And that was the issue that I raised for my article for Front Page that was just published 2 days ago. We have another one in the works. I don't know if it'll be out tonight or Monday morning, but what I wrote about, in the title of my article, I hope everyone goes to frontpagemag.com, Trump's immigration policies are working, and the subtitle, How 800 Americans and Lawful Immigrants Got Jobs Overnight in Chicago. How the jobs were liberated by having ICE do its job, go out and arrest the illegal aliens. And it turned out that there was a bakery in Chicago providing the buns to McDonald's. And they had 800 illegal aliens working in this bakery. And because ICE did its job, these people were, arrested, taken out of work, and they then could be replaced by American workers and lawful immigrants.
So what you're telling me is that they were willing to make the buns that American workers weren't willing to make? Nah.
I guess so. I guess so. I mean, it's just astonishing. But if you look at the article, the Chicago Tribune, listen to this sentence. This is right out of George Orwell's Ministry of Truth. A Swiss maker, it's a Swiss company, by the way, a Swiss maker of hamburger buns for the McDonald's Corporation said it's struggling to run a Chicago bakery after it lost a third of its workers in a clampdown on 800 immigrants without sufficient documentation.
Wow. So
they lacked papers? Sufficient papers. They only had 3 out of 4. What do you mean they lacked sufficient documentation? They were here illegally. They were working illegally. They had taken jobs they had no right to take. But what does the newspaper say? Well, they lacked sufficient documentation.
How crazy is it?
Let me see. If you get pulled over by the police and you're driving a car and you have no license, no registration, no insurance, no nothing, is the issue that you lacked sufficient documentation or that you're an unlicensed driver?
Yeah, what the problem is we have allowed these politically correct nincompoops to literally drag words and toss them out of the lexicon. Illegal is not a dirty word. It's an accurate word. Illegal immigrants are not immigrants. They're aliens.
Well, they're all aliens. You see, the term alien simply means any person not a citizen or national of the United States. I don't know if I ever told you or your audience a story, but I'll tell you a quick story. Tragically, my first wife died of cancer more than 30 years ago, but on our honeymoon in Europe, I was getting into our rental car. We were parked right by the canals. Anyone who's been to Amsterdam, they have all these canals, and the car's parked perpendicular to the canals. We just had a nice brunch. I was getting into my car, and the police attempted to arrest some guy getting into the car right next to me. And the guy hauls off and punches the cop in the face. I think he broke the police officer's nose. Blood went everywhere. And I was an agent back then in a squad where we were making an average of 2 arrests per day. So to arrest someone, it's kind of like the guy that ropes the steer. You kind of go into auto mode. You tie your shoelaces without thinking. I kicked the guy's legs out from under him, jumped on his back, flipped him onto his stomach, and yelled for the cops to give me handcuffs. Instead, I had a half dozen cops pointing their guns at me because they had no idea who the hell I was or why I had gotten into the middle of this thing, you know?
Yes.
And may she rest in peace, my wife started screaming. It was quite a scene, and they pulled me off this guy, and they throw me up against my car, and they very roughly frisked me and patted me down, and I understood what was happening.
Can I tell you what that reminds me of?
Go ahead.
This is silly, I know. Have you ever seen the movie Dumb and Dumber?
No, but go ahead.
Well, there's a scene in the movie Dumb and Dumber where Jim Carrey, who plays a hopeless loser that happens to be a limo driver, and the girl that he's just dropped off at the airport, unbeknownst to him, has left behind her briefcase in the airport because it was filled with cash that she was paying as ransom to get her husband back. Well, he didn't know that. He just saw that she dropped it there. So he was smitten with this girl. And so he runs, grabs the briefcase just before the bad guys can get to it, and he runs to the gate where this girl was getting on an airplane. And they're just about to close the door to the jetway. He bursts through it, and they say, "You can't go that way." He turns around, takes out his wallet, and says, "It's okay, I'm a limo driver."
Wow.
Now, I understand the circumstances were different, but the thing is, police, they frown on other people interfering when they're in the course of executing their duties.
And rightfully so, as I would. But there's a reason I'm telling you the story. So everyone gets all excited. You know, my wife was going nuts. And one of the cops looks at me and he goes, "How do you know this guy? Why are you in the middle of this?" They said, "Well, back in the United States, I'm a federal agent. I was just trying to help you." He said, "Do you have anything on you to prove who you are?" So I pulled out my credentials. He looks at the credentials, gets on the walkie-talkie. About 3 minutes later, a police car shows up, lights and sirens. Their commander gets out of the car, runs up to me. He said to me, "You're a federal agent in the United States?" I said, "Yes." He looks at my credentials. He shakes hands with me. He says, "Mr. Cutler, I'm sorry you got roughed up." I said, "That's not a problem. I understand what happened." But I said, "I saw that police officer get hurt. It looks as though he broke his nose." He said, "Yes, he did. And in fact, he's in an ambulance on his way to the hospital. We thank you for helping us, but you can't get involved here." I said, "Look, it was my training and instincts that kicked in, but don't you have a principle known as citizen's arrest?" He said, "We sure do, just like you do in the United States, but there's a problem." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Mr. Cutler, you're not a citizen, you're an alien." And he was very nice about it. He said, "Here's my business card. If its clothing is torn, we'll pay to replace it. If you have any problems while you're in Europe, please call me up. We'll take care of you." He said, "Would you like to go to lunch?" I said, "I just had a wonderful meal, thank you." But the point was, he was right. I was an alien, and I wasn't offended or insulted. It's a statement of fact.
Right.
But what's remarkable is we hear all about the dreamers, and this terrible word A is actually the A in the acronym DREAMER, alien minors.
Yes.
So the hypocrisy is astonishing. Furthermore, and this is something to realize, that by eliminating the difference between lawful immigrants and illegal aliens, we're doing a huge disservice to lawful immigrants, because people now equate the word immigrant with lawbreaker. Think about that. It used to be when I was a kid, my neighbors would introduce me to someone, or my parents would say, "Oh, look who's moving in. They just came from Europe. They just came from Latin America." And everyone was happy because they had legally immigrated. They went through the process. They wanted to join us and become Americans. And everyone would say, "Wow, that's wonderful. My mother went through that process. My dad's family went through that process. My first wife's family were in concentration camps. They went through that process." But by eliminating this distinction, and it's not political correctness, it's Orwellian. It's about thought control through language control. That's why I wrote an article for the Social Contract. It's about 8 pages long. And the title is "The Road to Tyranny is Paved with Language Censorship." When you can't have an honest conversation with honest language, then you lose our democracy. The First Amendment is the First Amendment for a very important reason. If you can't speak your mind freely, then you can't be living in a democracy. What we're seeing on college campuses is the absolute effort to shut down debate, because the other side are going to become the arbiters over what constitutes hate speech.
Exactly.
"Oh, you used the word alien. You're a hater. We have to shut you up." Never mind that the word alien appears in Dreamer. Never mind that everyone's screaming about the Dreamers. Well, we're going to shut down debate. And you know why they're shutting down debate? Because they know they can't win a debate if it's based on objective facts. You're going to get brand B, and no matter what you do, they only want you to get their message. And that's why when there's a revolution, what's the first thing the revolutionary sees when there's a coup?
The media.
They seize
the media.
Right, the radios and radio and television stations. They wouldn't bother with the newspapers in America today because they're irrelevant.
Yeah, here's something I wanted to delve into with you, Michael, because this week has been a little bit.
Radio television stations. They wouldn't bother with the newspapers in America today.
I just kicked out my story. Is that funny or is that funny?
Wow,
okay,
that is
sorry.
funny. Here's the thing.
Yes.
This week, what we saw happen in Alabama was the culmination of of mass collusion and conspiracy, with 38-year-old accusations being reported as fact by the fake news media. And what we had was there were several things that led to this very narrow defeat for Judge Roy Moore. One of them was the media just would not stop. They continued to pound and pound and pound. The second thing was that people within the Republican Party had decided that in their supreme wisdom, they were not going to support their candidate. And then on top of all of that, you have all of these other factors like Barack Obama sticking his nose right there in the middle of it. The only thing that made that election turn was this string of blue across the metropolitan areas of Alabama. Now, was it a free and fair election? I will leave that to somebody else to make that determination. But what it really was it was a change in the paradigm of the Republicans on Capitol Hill and the party itself essentially knifing somebody in the back simply because that person wasn't under their control.
Well, I have to tell you, Judge Moore wouldn't have been my ideal candidate, but what they did to him, what happened to him, is very worrisome, and I'll tell you why it's worrisome. Again, you're right, 38-year-old allegations. No way to defend yourself. But this reminds me of a movie that Robin Williams was in called Man of the Year. Did you ever see Man of the Year?
If I did, it's been a very long time ago.
All right, well, the premise is he plays a talk show guy, kind of like a Tonight Show program host by the name of Tom Dobbs. And as a goof, he decides to run for president, not thinking he's going to win. And his advisor, he does win because of a computer glitch, and they don't want to give away the movie plot, because I hope people will watch it. It's very thought-provoking. But at one point, his advisor says, listen, all you got to do is go out there and accuse your opponent of having sex with farm animals. And he said, how in the world do I prove something like that? He says, no, that's the beauty of it. You don't. You don't have to prove anything. He will now spend the rest of his campaign trying to prove he didn't. And that's what we've been seeing happening. You make these accusations, you drag up people who had a lapse in memory of 38 years. Now, did it happen? Maybe it did. And if it did happen, it's reprehensible. Okay, so let's be real clear. But the problem is that politics has always been known for its filth and its mudslinging, which is why, even though people have approached me as I've been out there doing speaking events around the country, and many people have come up to me and said, Mike, if you want to run for Congress, we can put money together for you. I'm very flattered. And the first time I heard it, I actually went home and had a long talk with my wife, and we gave it thought for about a week. And I finally was angry at myself for even thinking of running. Why? Because it's filthy. Because you're at the hands of these scoundrels. And even if you are elected, but you are an independent thinker on either side of the aisle, what committees do you think you're going to be on? The rubber band committee? The committee for new paper clips? You're not going to be able to do anything to advance any legislation or promote policies that make sense for the average American, because neither party gives a rat's tail about the average American, which is why Donald Trump is getting beat up every other day in the media and by members of his own parties. You have a president who says, let's not only bring jobs back to America, but let's have those jobs done by American hands. And the nitwits on the left, who are incapable of reading a newspaper, apparently, or listening to a broadcast, scream on Labor Day about, labor, we need better wages and better jobs. Well, if they had a half a brain in their collective heads, they would understand that that's exactly what's happening. And in fact, this article that about the Chicago raid, that was the preface or the predication for my article, talked about how this corporate executive was complaining bitterly that because their illegal workers were arrested, they're now going to have to pay better wages to attract enough workers. Think about that.
Wow.
Well, if the labor folks are out there screaming about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump's raids and policies are resulting in more jobs and higher wages, what in the world are they complaining about? But you see, a false narrative has been created, and that's why there are safe spaces on college campuses, because God forbid someone should stand up at the campus and say, wait a minute, if you're all in for American workers, the Trump policies coincide with what you're demanding. But that's not what this is about. This is about gaining control over America and Americans by keeping Americans down. Corporations want it because they want cheap labor, and the thugs on the left want it so that they can control the population. And if you read 1984, what's interesting, Guess which political class was seen as the most dangerous to the powers that be? The middle class.
That's right.
Because the middle class had the education and the intellect to know they were being screwed, but they lacked the financial wherewithal to help themselves. So because they were empowered with knowledge and had a desire to change the status quo, that made them dangerous. So in 1984, it was the middle class that came under the tightest scrutiny and surveillance. Are we not destroying the middle class in America today?
Oh, absolutely. The middle class is being squeezed out. It really is. The idea of, and this was the big hook that the politicians were throwing out there in 2008. Barack Obama and Joe Biden were out there saying we need to grow the middle class. Well, smoke and mirrors. They were growing.
But how did they then define the middle class?
That's exactly right. What they were doing was they were taking people that were earning $250,000 a year in a place where the cost of living is sky high, and claiming that person was wealthy. What their idea of expanding the middle class was taxing working class families into oblivion. At the same time, what they're doing is they are sending everybody down the same slope. And what winds up happening is jobs go away like they did in a massive way. And then all of a sudden you've got people that are on unemployment. And then once they're done with unemployment, what do? They go off the records. Nobody counts them anymore after a while. What we had with Barack Obama was a managed crisis, a managed downsizing of America's pocketbooks. This was, and this is key to the real leftists that are out there, Michael. They want to abolish the ability of we the people to own property and to control our own destiny.
Oh, I agree with you. And if you look at some of the commercials now where you can lease out your own car to help pay for it. Have you seen that one? It blew my mind. It's not enough to lease a car, but there's now an insurance company offering to help you with the arrangement. So if to help pay for your car, you need to rent it out a couple days a week.
You can sublet your car. Wow.
You could sublet your car.
Man.
What could possibly go wrong?
It's an act of desperation, and that's the only way that the Democrats can even think of to do these things. It's crazy.
All right, so here's the thing I want everyone to think about. Now, I'm a Democrat, you know that, and we may disagree, and as Americans, that's our right. It makes us good Americans to have the discussions, because neither side is always right or always wrong. There are times we get it wrong, and there are times that we need to see things from a different viewpoint. But I agree with raising minimum wage because corporations tend to be greedy. They're all about profit, which I understand, but profit without morality is a problem. But the problem is they are conflating wage equality with 10.10 an hour, the Democrats. What does 10.10 an hour make you equal to? Even if it's $15 an hour, what does that make you equal to? $30,000 a year, roughly, is what $15 an hour is.
Right.
What does $15 an hour mean in America today? What does that make you equal to? Bill Gates? Zuckerberg? Alan Greenspan? I mean, give me a break. So they're not saying, let's simply raise minimum wages to help the people at the bottom of the economic ladder. That's a fair argument. They're saying, we need wage equality, and that's why we need to support 10.10 an hour. So we're not talking about minimum wage now. We're now talking about a standard wage. That's called communism.
I've got to tell you, and your argument about corporations being greedy, I understand that. But when you're talking about small businesses, that's
another story.
They are doubly injured by all of this because they can't compete with the buying power of the big box stores, and they can't compete with the huge corporations. And so, they can't afford to pay somebody $15 an hour right off the bat. But I'll tell you this, too. If small businesses are good at what they do, then eventually they'll get their head above water. And when they do, they're much more likely to treat their people fairly and equitably than the big corporations will ever be.
Oh, I tend to agree with you. But do you see my point, though, about minimum wage versus we're talking about wage equality. This isn't about wage equality.
No. If it were, then everybody would live in the exact same style of house. Everybody would drive.
And that's what they're striving for.
Exactly.
Right, but this is a working poor. This is about turning America into the working poor. And if you look at what Greenspan had to say, it's remarkable. Because he talked about two things when he testified for Chuck Schumer back on April 30th, 2009, on a committee hearing on comprehensive immigration reform. So he talks about how the American people don't like the idea of illegal aliens, but refers to illegal immigration as a contributor to the growth of our economy. Well, maybe the economy was growing for the wealthy, but what was it doing for the middle class, you see?
Well, it was booming. It was booming for the drug dealers.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then he said the illegal part of the civilian labor force diminished last year as the economy slowed. This was in 2009. Though illegals still comprised an estimated 5% of our total civilian labor force. Unauthorized immigrants serve as a flexible component of our workforce, often a safety valve and so forth. That's crazy. And he said it only suppresses wages minimally. Well, guess what? If you are at the bottom of the economic ladder and your wage gets suppressed, you have a new title. It is probably called homeless. And that's why you see record numbers of homeless people on the streets of towns and cities across America. Right. Because 5% of the workforce shouldn't be here.
That's right. That's right. It's killing the economies of families is what it's doing. It really
and then he went on to talk about the computer programmers. And I just want to read this. I know we're at the bottom of the hour. You probably want to take a break, but I'll do this real quick. He has two benefits about bringing in more H-1B visas that we've all heard about. First, he said skilled workers and their families form new households. They will, of necessity, move into vacant housing units. What a wonderful way. An American home lost to foreclosure. I see the Norman Rockwell painting, don't you?
I do, vacant especially in those neighborhoods in Detroit.
Detroit and elsewhere, yes.
Exactly.
The current glut of which is depressing prices of American homes. And, of course, house price declines are a major factor in mortgage foreclosures and the plunge in value of the vast quantity of U.S. mortgage-backed securities that's contributed substantially to the disabling of our banking system. That's baloney. What did it were his subprime mortgages. But then he goes on.
That's right.
And says the second bonus, and this is the one that can give you high blood pressure issues, would address the increasing concentration of income in this country. In other words, someone's making too much money. Guess who? And it's not him, and it's not Zuckerberg, and it's not Gates. He says this: greatly expanding our quotas for the highly skilled would lower wage premiums. What a way to describe a salary. Wage premiums of skilled over the less skilled. Skill shortages in America exist because we are shielding our skilled labor force from world competition. Quotas have been substituted for the wage pricing mechanism, and in the process, we have created, are you ready for this term? A privileged elite. How's that?
Wow. I got to tell you, we do need to take a break, Michael. We do need to take a break here, but we'll come back and talk more about this. And, the nuttiness of these people is they're so far out of touch with mainstream America and the real economic problems. We'll be back with more with Michael Cutler. Also a very surprising story, disturbing story about the FBI and last year's election. We'll have that for you, plus much more coming up with Michael Cutler on the J.J. McCartney Show next.
The J.J. McCartney Show.
Hey, everybody. J.J. McCartney here. You know, it's not very often that I get excited about a product, but I am sure excited about this one. I'm talking, of course, about MyPillow.com. These pillows are made in the USA. They come with a 60-day comfort guarantee and a 10-year warranty. They are machine washable and dryable. They come with a patented interlocking fill. It keeps you cool at night, and it will not go flat. Go to MyPillow.com. Click the Radio Listeners Special tab and use promo code JJMC to get 2 premium king or queen size pillows and 2 additional go anywhere travel pillows for one special price and free shipping. That's mypillow.com, promo code JJMC, or call 800-953-6613. That's 800-953-6613. MyPillow.com. Promo code JJMC.
I felt this thrill going up my leg. You know, I get the same thrill up my leg all over me. If you're gay, you know that America, at its most idealistic, stands for your right to love, because an American president has now declared as much. The president's embracing your children in the way that God did when he created your children. We live in a powerful time, and as long as Barack Obama is at the helm, and will continue to be. Commander, give us our orders and tell us where we're going. Give us the mission. This guy's done everything right. He's raised his family right. Everything he's done is clean as a whistle. He's never not only broken any law, he's never done anything wrong. He's the perfect father, the perfect husband, the perfect American. I felt this thrill going up my leg.
What do you say to Chris Matthews?
I don't know what I'd say to him, other than maybe I'm glad he's put on a dry diaper and isn't getting that tingle down his leg anymore. But, you know, you mentioned these guys before.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
There's a nasty little criminal on the loose.
It could be in your area. In fact, it could be in your backyard.
It's the Asian longhorn beetle.
Yeah, that's right. A beetle, the insect kind.
Black and white, long striped antenna. It's a tree killer.
This is one bad beetle. It's caused the destruction of thousands of trees already.
Thing is, we can't spot it now. It's gone undercover, inside the trees.
Cold weather drives it into hiding.
So now, it's a game of waiting it out.
What can you do to help?
You can be a beetle buster and protect the trees.
Don't move firewood, because the beetle, its larvae, its eggs, they could be in the wood.
If you move firewood, you could spread the beetle.
So buy it locally, burn it locally. Got it?
It's as simple as black and white. Don't move firewood.
Be a beetle buster. Learn more at beetlebusters.info.
That's beetlebusters.info. A message from the USDA.
Okay, we are back on the J.J. McCartney Show. Michael Cutler is our guest. And Michael, a very disturbing story unearthed yesterday by Chelsea Schilling at WorldNet Daily. Just 1 month into the FBI's Trump-Russia investigation, and only weeks after the FBI had been given a copy of the anti-Trump dossier in the summer of 2016, one of the FBI's top Russian counterintelligence experts discussed an insurance policy in the event that then presidential candidate Donald Trump won election to the White House. After months of bashing Trump in texts and stating that Democrat nominee Hillary Clinton just has to win, Peter Strzok and FBI lawyer Lisa Page exchanged a cryptic text concerning a so-called insurance policy against a possible Trump win. On August 15th, 2016, Strzok wrote, quote, "I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Deputy FBI Director Andrew McCabe's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event that you die before the age of 40. It's unclear whether the insurance policy against Trump's election might have involved, or what it might have involved, but however, WorldNet Daily recently reported the FBI's investigation into alleged Russian meddling in the presidential election began as late as July 2016, just weeks before Strzok's mysterious text. Only a month before the insurance policy comment, the anti-Trump dossier had been given to the FBI near the start of July, according to former British spy Christopher Steele. Well, do you know how the dossier got to the FBI?
No, I actually do not. But here's what concerns me. You know, back in the old days when I was a brand new agent, the old timers were old school. We had a boss, Frank Johnson, who was a mentor to all of us. And every time that he held, we used to have payday meetings. We actually physically used to get a paycheck. We didn't have direct deposit. So every 2 weeks, we'd have a payday meeting for the whole squad. he would always end the meeting by saying, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen, because we only had 2 women agents back then, the rest were all men, he would say to us, as federal agents, it's not enough to not engage in wrongdoing. You must never even give the illusion of doing wrong. So here we have FBI agents. This isn't an academic discussion. This isn't like you or I talking about an election or a football game or where we have no role to play. The fact of the matter is these FBI agents had a very serious role to play in investigating Hillary for her illegal activities and then investigating alleged illegal conduct by the Trump campaign. So these folks obviously were players and obviously had a bias. Now, people bring bias to the work site. I don't care who you are, what your view is. Everyone has viewpoints that may not coincide with everyone else's. That's just the way human nature is. But to be so brazen as to be using government equipment for apparent misuse, and the misuse pointed to a bias wherein they felt so strongly that it was clear that they would see the election of Trump not just to be something they weren't happy about, but something catastrophic.
Michael, here's the shocker to all of this. Steele, Christopher Steele, did not complete the dossier on his own. He had been hired by the Washington-based intelligence firm Fusion GPS, which funded Steele's research with cash from Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democratic.
And you had the spouse, and you had an FBI agent wife who worked there.
Exactly. And you know, the funny part is, too, that Richard Strzok...
By the way, this goes beyond calling it incestuous. This goes well beyond simply saying this was incestuous.
Richard Strzok, the texts that he exchanged with this woman named Page, Lisa Page, she also just happened, by the way, to be his mistress. So you've got that dynamic, and then here is the real. This paints a picture of collusion that you can't deny. The person that delivered the dossier to the FBI was none other than John Foster McCain. So I mean, you have got first of all, a Republican senator delivering what I believe is illegally obtained information, and we certainly know it was false information, that was then carried by the FBI to a FISA court to obtain illegal warrants to tap the phones of the Trump campaign. So what you have is the Hillary Clinton campaign paying an intelligence firm to pay a guy to put together a fake dossier, deliver that dossier to the FBI for the sole purpose of getting the right to spy on your rival's campaign. Only in America.
Well, this makes Watergate sound like a childish prank.
It really does. It really does. It makes Watergate sound like a couple of kids in a sandbox.
I mean, this is so amazing to me. And then you had the changing of the wording so that Hillary's crime was no longer portrayed as the crime that it was.
That's right. It was no longer an investigation. It was a matter.
Yeah. Well, no, not only matter. The term about I'm trying to remember what the terminology that was used, going from reckless disregard, whatever the language was. In the first case, it was the elements of a crime. But by altering 2 words, it no longer were the elements of a crime.
And that happened, I believe, quite directly from Barack Obama to Loretta Lynch to Jim Comey, that they made these changes. And at that point in time, everybody knows damn well that this was all about the presidential race. It had nothing whatsoever to do with criminal activity on the part of Trump or anybody under him. This was all about undermining the possibility of him winning. And, you know, it makes me wonder, Michael, knowing what they were willing to do and they still lost, how bad of a candidate was Hillary Clinton, really?
Oh, well, you could smell the stench clear across the country.
It is. It's amazing.
And she's still out there screaming about this.
Right. You know, it's
be happy your name isn't Bill Clinton.
She doesn't understand why the Rust Belt didn't vote for her. It's because, you know, I don't mean to use this kind of language lightly, but I said this all along about Hillary Clinton and why I was sure that she wouldn't become president for one simple, overarching reason that nobody in the media wanted to admit. And it's simply this: people hate that bitch. That's the bottom line. With Hillary Clinton, she was not electable because nobody likes this woman. Nobody.
Well, it's hard to like her, and it's impossible to trust her.
Exactly. Exactly right.
And you see what the media kept hammering with the emails, forgetting the server. The issue here is the server. You know, I had a top secret clearance, and my safe in my office was only certified to secret level. So when I needed to review top secret material, I had to go over to the FBI or DEA. We're very specific about that. Hillary's clearance went well above top secret. And let me tell you, every night if I work late, that for all the vilification people like to heap on civil servants, my average work week, and most of my buddies, ran to 15 to 18 hours per day. And beyond 10 hours, you don't get extra pay. You just do it because the job needs to be done. It's like being in the military. But if I signed for my safe, because you have a security officer go around at 5 o'clock, and each day we would rotate who the security officer is. It was a small office, so every other week I would be the security officer for the night. You'd go around with the clipboard, and if one of my buddies was keeping the safe open, he would have to sign for it. If I signed for my safe and went home without locking it, which almost happened one night, I got in the elevator, I was halfway to my car, and it dawned on me, and I ran back upstairs quickly. And I realized my safe was in a locked office in a locked and secure federal building that had 24-hour armed guard patrolling the hallways. But yet, if I had left my secret safe unlocked in that secure building, I was looking at a minimum of a suspension.
Wow.
Now imagine if I had moved the safe into my basement of my house.
Right.
In essence, that's what Hillary did, but the material in it went well beyond anything that I had access to. And anybody could have tapped into it, because we're not talking about a physical safe, but a server that could have easily been hacked and apparently was hacked.
Sure.
So
if
I had,
least.
So let's say one night I said, you know, I'm going to be lazy. I'm just going to take my safe home with me. And I got a moving truck, because the damn thing was heavy and big and so forth, and put it in my house, and they discovered it. Here's the new math. How many years in Leavenworth do you think Mike Cutler would be serving?
I'm guessing somewhere between 15 and 20.
Probably so.
Yeah.
So how do you think federal agents, other than the clowns that were doing these textings back and forth, how do you think most people, I can tell you, when I got together with my friends, both current and former federal agents, our level of fury over the server was someplace in the stratosphere. Was it ever really portrayed that way in the mainstream media, however? No.
No, it wasn't. As a matter of fact,
he happened to have some emails floating around. That's the way it was being treated.
The mainstream media was always very quick to make excuses for any Democrat that was caught with his pants down or with her pantsuit down. Do you remember Sandy Berger sticking all the papers in his pants?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, and by the way, he was doing that on behalf of the Clintons. I mean,
you have to wonder what was in those magic papers. Now, there's documentation I'd be interested in, talking about documentation.
Right. But what we're looking at now, I mean, the American people do not trust the FBI. They don't trust the CIA. They don't trust the NSA, and for darn good reason, because we have seen a pattern of abuse of authority, abuse of power, and it doesn't mean that everybody is crooked. But when people at the top, like James Comey, do the things that they do, perform all of these acrobatics to accommodate a political end, then it's time for a complete upheaval of the entire department. And what really bothers me is we're sitting here now 11 months after the inauguration of President Trump, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, what has he done in his time in office? I haven't seen anything. I was expecting more upheaval than this.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm disappointed. I like Jeff Sessions. You know, I know the man. He's quoted me from the floor of the Senate. I was with him in a panel discussion. I think he's a very good guy. But goodness gracious, he needs to get his ass in gear, to put it bluntly.
I think that he's afraid of rattling too many cages on Capitol Hill where he used to dwell. And I really don't understand, if you're going to have somebody be the attorney general. I mean, I'm even thinking the FBI director. We used to have a guy named J. Edgar Hoover at the FBI. And, he may not have been the classiest guy in the world. But by God, he had the fear. There were people so afraid of going against him or going against the law because they knew that he meant business. And, the idea of equal justice in this country today, it just simply no longer exists among the upper echelons of politicians. And
well, let's go beyond that. Look at sanctuary cities for illegal aliens. Look at prosecutors now on the local level telling the people under them, if you're going to prosecute an immigrant, quote unquote, make certain that the way you do it doesn't subject that illegal alien to deportation or that resident alien to lose a green card because he's committed crimes. Now, ask yourself,
why do we have laws?
And why, does that not violate equal protection for American citizens? Or does anyone give a rat's tail if an American citizen goes to jail for 5 years? No. But if the guy is an alien who might lose his green card, let's figure out a way to turn that felony into a misdemeanor so the guy doesn't face deportation. There is no longer equal protection under the law once you start to implement that kind of a program. And that's exactly what we're witnessing in major cities across the country today. Doesn't matter that Kate Steinle is dead.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter that I testified at a trial where a 24-year-old cop was killed by a dirtbag that I had physically deported, and he came back, killed the cop. I testified at the murder trial.
It's like a revolving door now. It really is.
It is. And if you're an illegal alien, you have more rights than anybody.
Exactly. You actually have immunization because of the way that the laws are being enforced. And, the thing is, I mean, the question that so many people ask is, well, why do we even bother then? If we're going to be a land where there's two sets of rules, then obviously, I mean, and I look at it this way, if you're the only person on your block that's working and paying taxes, then it's time for you to not be the only person on your block working and paying taxes. You either get the heck out of there, or you make sure that everybody understands that you're not going to carry them anymore. The American people, I believe that's what the message they were sending when they elected Donald Trump, was that this kind of status quo is not going to work for us. And if it's not going to work for us, then why in the world would we support these establishment types that have created this mess and made it worse at every turn?
But that's why Donald Trump invokes such fear in these crooks, because, number one, he's not taking their dirty money. Up until now, we needed another position in the cabinet called the auctioneer, you think?
Yeah.
But on top of it, he actually wants to enforce the immigration laws. He's the first president to implement programs that parallel what I've been writing about. I've spoken to the people who work with the president, so I think it's more than a coincidence. But my emphasis has always been on the lack of interior enforcement. The president is attempting now to hire 10,000 ICE agents. They're going after immigration fraud. They're going after the employers. They're going after the gangs. They're going after the drug dealers. And interior enforcement is getting the emphasis that it never had before, but always needed.
Right.
The Border Patrol is important, but if you don't have meaningful interior enforcement, the Border Patrol can't succeed. At the end of the day, it's interior enforcement. And that's what he's heading. So here's the point. What he is doing runs exactly in opposition to the globalist agenda of both political parties.
Exactly. And anybody that opposes the idea of building the wall, enforcing the laws everywhere in America, and punishing these sanctuary cities by pulling out federal funds. If you oppose doing those three things, then you may as well just go ahead and start speaking Chinese, because America as we know it cannot survive if we keep going this way. Look at what's happening in Europe right now. They're about 5 or 10 years ahead of us. But what's happening is sovereignty is being wiped out. You've got unelected officials in a faraway capital dictating to sovereign nations what they have to do, how many illegal Muslim aliens they have to take. what we're seeing here is the erosion of every nation's sovereignty by a global cabal. That's what's going on.
Yep, and the guy that was behind Citizenship USA, whereby the Clinton administration rammed over 1.1 million applications through the process, was a guy by the name of Alenikov, who ran that program, an inept program. It was ultimately investigated by Internal Affairs and by the GAO. My goodness, we had thousands of criminal aliens granted citizenship, and then Alenikov went on to become the Deputy High Commissioner for Refugees at the United Nations.
Yeah.
You see? So if you look at where all the dots get connected, it's all about taking down borders. That's why George W. Bush had Border Patrol agents arrested for doing their job. He sent Border Patrol agents to secure the Iraqi border and had Border Patrol agents locked up Ramos and Compion here in New York for doing their job. And it's remarkable that George W. Bush was totally mute and invisible during the Obama administration, but someone got the paddles to him, and now he's up and running because Trump is in the White House. Because there really isn't much difference between Obama and George W. Bush, but there's a world of difference with where Donald Trump is concerned, you see?
Yeah, you know, the thing is, we spent as a nation hundreds of billions of dollars to kick Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. And we spent trillions of dollars to overthrow Saddam and to try and make the Iranian or the Iraqi people feel good about having a purple finger. But we wouldn't lift a finger to guard our borders and to prevent the inflow of illegals into this country. And, you know, I understand people...
And the narcotics. Let's remember the narcotics.
Exactly. I understand people wanting a better life.
60,000 opiate overdoses last year in America. 60,000. That's a football stadium filled to the roof.
And, you know, I understand that these people want to feed their families. They want a better life and all that other stuff. But doesn't it make more sense that we cooperate with Mexico and make it possible for them to prosper in their own land? Doesn't that make more sense?
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. I see we're running out of time. It's an oligarchy, okay? And what Trump said was right, but the media wouldn't make a big deal. He said, if you want treaty agreements with us, then you need to pay higher wages to your own workers. Mexico has something like the 16th largest economy in the world. It's outrageous that their people live in squalor, and they only live in squalor because something like 1% of the oligarchy of Mexico controls like 95% of the Mexican wealth.
Yes.
And that's now become the business model for the United States by the greedy Gates and Zuckerberg and Greenspan and those thugs who wish they could turn America into Mexico.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, they're trying as hard as they can.
And Trump stands in their way, and that's why they're so angry.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Michael, it's always great to talk to you, my friend, and do appreciate it. And I'm glad you're feeling better. And we'll do this. Let's do this again very soon. And if I don't talk to you again before the holidays, I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And let's plan on getting together in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Well, you know, we're celebrating Hanukkah. For those folks celebrating Hanukkah, I wish it's a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas. And I'm sure
Hanukkah started night before last, right?
2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, yes.
All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much.
Great time of the year.
God bless you, my friend.
You will.
Take care.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, friends, that's going to do it for the first hour of the J.J. McCartney Show. Michael Cutler, our guest, and much appreciated, absolutely. We'll be back with more on the Thursday edition. We got lots of breaking news to share with you, and oh, so much more. Stay with us. Hour 2 up next.
The great story here for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it is this vast right-wing conspiracy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
It's no secret, whatever it takes to advance a very different vision for America.
I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Ms. Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong.
I'll tell you a couple of stories about fraud.
She wiped the server clean. Personal emails are my personal business.
I saw it as a matter of convenience, and it was allowed. Others had done it. The server will remain private.
These two federal judges both saying the same things about her. There's too much deception here. Mrs. Clinton, when you speak to me, you will certify under penalty of perjury that you're telling the truth.
Going through the emails, there were over 60,000 in total. About half were work-related and went to the State Department, and about half were personal.
When you speak to the public, you say, I turned over everything. For the most part, a direct quote. When you talk to the public, you say, I turned over everything.
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is. Yes.
That's for the, people investigating it to try to figure out. But we turned over everything that was work-related. Every single thing.
90 to 95% of my work-related emails were in the state system.
Who told you that 90 to 95% of your emails were in the State Department system? Who told you that?
We learned that from the State Department.
The Inspector General report found that less than 1% of State Department emails, record emails, were captured. So they give a number of less than 1%, and you give a number of 90%.
I have absolute confidence that everything that could be in any way connected to work is now in the possession of the State Department.
If is means is and never has been, that's one thing. If it means there is none, that was a completely true statement.
When people push boundaries too far, it's not because they're strong.
I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles.
Her arrival in Bosnia was not quite as dramatic as Clinton put it.
Good to see you.
Once again, her memory doesn't match our videotape.
Your opponents are saying that that's really part of a larger pattern with you, that you often avoid taking firm positions on controversial issues.
They are going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more radical jihadists.
Fact checkers have said that she was wrong.
You, quote, take a backseat to no one when it comes to progressive values.
I take a backseat to no one when you look at my record and standing up and fighting for progressive values.
Last month in Ohio, you said you plead guilty to, quote, being kind of moderate and center. Do you change your political identity based on who you're talking to?
No, I think that like most people that I know, I have a range of views, but they are rooted in my values and my experience.
I get accused of being kind of moderate and center. I plead guilty.
Just for the record, are you a progressive or are you a moderate?
I'm a progressive. I represented Wall Street as a senator from New York, and I went to Wall Street in December of 2007, before the big crash that we had, and I basically said, cut it out. Quit foreclosing on homes. Quit engaging in these kinds of speculative behaviors.
Now, who's exactly to blame for the housing crisis? And I think there's plenty of blame to go around.
You say anything to get elected.
Well, actually, I have been very consistent over the course of my entire life.
Do you think there's something you can do to get a majority of Americans to believe you're trustworthy?
Live from the Nightside Radio Studios.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Coming to you from Nebraska by way of Alaska. Here's J.J. McCartney.
All right, thank you, Marcus, and welcome back, everybody. Hour number 2 of the J.J. McCartney Show. It's December the 14th, Thursday, And tomorrow on the program, the mysterious Colonel will join us. We're going to talk about breaking news today. We're going to tell you a little bit more detail about the FBI and their evil plan to stop Donald Trump. Plus, we'll take your phone calls. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have about 54 minutes left to impart as much wisdom as possible. Stick around. We'll do it next. All right, we turn the camera on. We say hello to those of you watching on YouTube. Appreciate having you with us. And also hi to you folks listening at redstatetalkradio.com. Also those of you listening on Roku. If you're listening on Amazon, Alexa, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And for those of you listening on Spreaker, we're glad to have you with us as well. All right, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We were talking last hour about the story of the FBI and their secret insurance policy in case, just maybe, Donald Trump had won the election, which, of course, he did. Well, there was the dossier. We talked about that, and we talked about the fact that the dossier was actually handed out from John McCain to the FBI. And then supposedly it was this man, Peter Strzok, that took the dossier to the FISA courts and requested surveillance warrants for the Trump campaign. And as it turns out, the dossier was paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC. Basically one and the same at that point. Strzok, who was chosen to oversee the FBI's Trump investigation at the end of July of 2016, was kicked off special counsel Robert Mueller's team last summer after it was learned that he had texted his anti-Trump messages to fellow Mueller investigator Lisa Page, with whom he was romantically involved. Strzok also played a large role in the investigation of Clinton's email. He reportedly emailed Clinton on July 2nd, 2016, just 3 days before former FBI Director James Comey exonerated Clinton from wrongdoing following the investigation into her private email server. Now, pundits, lawmakers, and legal minds offered their own thoughts on Strzok's mysterious texts. We begin with Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton, who tweeted, "New FBI texts show more high-level corruption. We need a criminal investigation, and Mueller investigation should be halted. If Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein doesn't understand this, then Donald Trump should find someone who does." The Daily Caller's Chuck Ross tweeted that the most troubled part of Strzok's texts is that they show he basically planned to assert his own system of justice. Former Secret Service agent Dan Bogino retweeted and said, "If an FBI supervisor assigned to investigate candidate Obama sent this text before Election Day of 2008, the country would have exploded." Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, tweeted, "FBI owes answers and an insurance policy. FBI owes answers and insurance policy against Trump victory. And if nothing to hide, why would senior FBI leaders use secret phones that can't be traced to talk? Hillary's DOJ needs to give... see if I can read this. Oh, my God. Okay, here it is. The Department of Justice needs to give Judicom full transparency and cooperation to restore public trust. FBI can't be political. No, the phrase, my friend, is the FBI shouldn't be political. But if you think it isn't political right now, you're not paying attention. Fox News contributor Mary Kissel suggested the FBI may have been discussing the dossier. Now we learn FBI agents texted about an anti-Trump insurance policy, perhaps a reference to the Steele dossier. Now, during his show yesterday, Rush Limbaugh said, "So here's Strzok saying, I know you think there's no way Trump can win, but I'm afraid we can't risk it. We can't leave it to chance." Now, this text exposes the fact that they may have been working to secure Trump's defeat. The FBI. The FBI. We're not talking about individuals in a cabinet. We're talking about the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the top law enforcement agency in the United States. Now, what this means is they're in McCabe's office. All three of them. McCabe is the acting director of the FBI. Strzok and Lisa Page and McCabe. They're in McCabe's office, and they're worried to death that they're thinking that Trump is going to win this thing. And she, Lisa Page, lays out her thinking, in which there's no way Trump wins. She went through it, every point, apparently, and he's referencing that. He says, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration. In Andy's office, that's Andrew McCabe, that there's no way he gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event that you die before you're 40. Now, what does this mean? I'm afraid we can't take that risk. What do you think that means? It means we can't just sit around and let whatever happens happen. We can't take that risk. We've got to do something. And boy, did they work hard with Fusion GPS, manufacturing the Trump dossier, which was used to get a FISA court warrant to investigate and surveil the Trump campaign. Now, you know what this smells like, ladies and gentlemen. The drive-by media are not going to have this. The drive-bys are not even going to mention this. The drive-bys are not even going to reference this. This is causing a firestorm because it does indicate that they were putting together a strategy, that Strzok was beginning to put together a strategy. He said, look, Lisa, I hope you're right that there's no way this guy gets elected, but we can't take that chance. We can't take that risk. That means we just can't sit here and do nothing. That's what that means. The Daily Wire's Ben Shapiro called the insurance policy text an insane text message that may have just fatally wounded the Mueller investigation. Now, this looks an awful lot like motivation for launching an investigation into Trump in order to sink Trump as a hedge against Trump's victory. Shapiro wrote, the FBI's investigation into Russian government interference in the election began in July 2016, just weeks before Strzok sent the text message. And that means that there is now more of a smoking gun of FBI corruption against Trump than there is of Trump colluding with Russia. How can Mueller come back from this? He's fired Strzok and Page, but if the investigation was initially a political hit job, how can it now turn into something good and decent? Particularly in the absence of a smoking gun regarding collusion. I'll tell you what it is. Anything that they unearthed with this investigation, as far as I'm concerned, that is fruit from a poison tree, which would mean it's not admissible in any court. Now, and I'll tell you, I had not read this paragraph. I swear to God, I had not read the paragraph I'm about to share with you. This is just proof that great minds think alike. The question again was, how can Mueller come back from that? He's fired Strzok and Page, but if the investigation was initially a political hit job, how can it now turn into something good and decent, particularly in the absence of a smoking gun regarding collusion? And here's the sentence. Had not read this, but I just said this to you. It's not just that this is fruit from a poisonous tree. There's no fruit to show, just the poisonous tree. This investigation has all been, it's been exactly the same as 38-year-old allegations against Roy Moore. They were hoping that they could stoke a flame in the mainstream media that would somehow resonate with the people. They failed. Now, then FBI Director Robert Mueller, I mean, he was the FBI director. He's the one that was cheering on President Obama back in June of 2013. Obama had announced that James Comey was his nominee to succeed Mueller as FBI director. Yeah, there are lots of people, ladies and gentlemen, even people from the Daily Beast, that said that this message is ominous. We've got Lachian Marquet of the Daily Beast tweeting, "This looks very bad," and like talking shit about Trump privately, whatever his own staff does, that. But an insurance policy in case Trump is elected? That seems way more problematic. The cryptic insurance policy text was one of 375 messages released Tuesday before a House Judiciary Committee. They were holding a hearing with Rod Rosenstein. Yesterday, most of the mainstream media were focused primarily on the texts that trashed Trump and called him names. But the Wall Street Journal columnist Kimberly Strassel said the real media's attention should be on this insurance policy message. Strassel tweeted, "The press is focusing deliberately on Strzok and Strzok's expressing hostility to Trump and noting it's okay for agents to have political opinions. But what the press needs to focus on are the messages suggesting that he would act on that hostility, aka the insurance policy, which is not okay." Strzok and Page also exchanged some other noteworthy texts, including the following. Strzok called Trump an effing idiot in a message sent on the 20th of October of last year. On August 6th, Strzok said, "F Trump." And Page told him, "Maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace." Strzok responded, quote, "I can protect our country at many levels. I'm not sure if that helps." In March of 2016, Strzok indicated he planned to vote for Clinton. He told Page, "God, Hillary should win 100 million to nothing." In a July 26th text to Page, Strzok cheered for Clinton after she received the Democrat Party nomination, saying, "Congrats on a woman nominated for president in a major party. About damn time." Give you an idea what kind of thinking this guy does. Yeah, about damn time, he said. Just this week, WorldNet Daily asked Mueller's office, what would you say to high-profile critics who are now claiming Mueller's team is too partisan to investigate this case in a fair and balanced way? Justice Department policies and federal law prohibit discriminating based on political affiliation when it comes to hiring for non-political positions. Mueller spokesman Joshua Stuave replied. Stuave also pointed to Rosenstein's comment in a recent Fox News interview, quote, "If there were conflicts that arose because of Director Mueller or anybody employed by Director Mueller, we have a process within the Justice Department to take care of that." Oh, yeah. Have we seen anything at all from your precious process? No, we haven't. As WorldNet Daily has reported, Mueller assembled a legal team for his Russia investigation that was apparently full of Democrats and Democrat-connected lawyers. There was Andrew Weissman. He donated 6 times in 2008 to political action committees for Obama. There was Jeannie Rhee, who donated $5,400 to Clinton's campaign, or rather the PAC, Hillary for America. Rhee previously represented the Clinton Foundation in a 2015 racketeering case and served as the personal attorney of Barack Obama's national security advisor, Ben Rhodes. And then you've got James Quarles, who donated more than a dozen Democratic PACs since the late 1980s, including PACs for Michael Dukakis, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton. Quarles also gave money to the campaigns of Al Gore and John Kerry, previously a partner at WilmerHale, where Mueller worked. There's Greg Andres, who donated at least $3,700 to Democrats. And there's a handful of others that obviously have the same political affiliations. Now, you've got Aaron Zebley, as a former partner at Mueller's law firm, reportedly represented longtime Bill Clinton aide Justin Cooper, who was a leading player in Hillary Clinton's email controversy. Cooper had helped set up Clinton's homebrew email server and destroyed her mobile devices. So on Monday of this week, it was revealed that Nellie H. Orr, the wife of senior Justice Department official Bruce Orr, worked for Fusion GPS during the 2016 election, while the research firm was compiling its anti-Trump dossier. Bruce Orr was demoted because he tried to hide his meetings with Fusion GPS officials. So when it's leftists that do this stuff, they don't even get a slap on the wrist. No. There was no consequence for these people, legally speaking. Folks, I got a lot more to share with you today. I really do. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you about a place. We're talking about Jesus. We'll put you in the slammer. We'll have more on that, plus your phone calls at 855-853-5227. More of the J.J. McCartney Show coming up in just a minute. Stay with us.
The J.J. McCartney Show.
Hey, everybody. J.J. McCartney here. You know, it's not very often that I get excited about a product, but I am sure excited about this one. I'm talking, of course, about MyPillow.com. These pillows are made in the USA. They come with a 60-day comfort guarantee and a 10-year warranty. They are machine washable and dryable. They come with a patented interlocking fill. It keeps you cool at night, and it will not go flat. Go to mypillow.com. Click the radio listeners special tab and use promo code JJMC to get 2 premium king or queen size pillows and 2 additional go anywhere travel pillows for one special price and free shipping. That's mypillow.com, promo code JJMC, or call 800-953-6613. That's 800-953-6613. mypillow.com, promo code JJMC.
On the next episode of Recipes for Disaster.
I'm making beef sliders for my friend Sandy. Nana taught me to always pull meat off the grill early so it's extra juicy.
Use a food thermometer to ensure ground beef is 160 degrees, or you could make people really sick. Sandy didn't think twice about the slider she ate until yoga class, when a nasty case of food poisoning turned her downward-facing dog into upward-moving lunch. Watch Recipes for Disaster at foodsafety.gov and learn the steps Maria unwittingly leaves out. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
Learn more about who we are and what we do by clicking the About Us tab at jjmccartney.com. The show will continue after these messages.
I've got your 6.
I've got your 6.
I've got your 6.
In the military, got your 6 means I've got your back.
I've got your 6.
Through jobs, education, housing, and more, we can support returning military veterans and their families. Please show your support and prove to a veteran you've got their 6.
I've got your 6.
I've got your 6.
Go to gotyoursix.org for more information and to purchase 6 merchandise like the now famous 6 lapel pin that you can buy and wear to show your support.
Okay, welcome back to the JJ McCartney Show. Thanks for being with us on this Thursday, the 14th day of December. Yeah, you know what? We're all excited because my wife and I are going to attend a Christmas get-together tonight for the outfit that she works for. That'll be lots of fun. You know, holiday parties, as they call them nowadays, because of political correctness. We can't say Christmas party, but that's what it is. It's a Christmas party. It's not going to kill anybody if we say that. But I wanted to make sure everybody knew that, you know, we're not, it's not that we're intentionally, we're not snubbing anybody or, you know, we're not trying to be antisocial. But my wife and I, we guard our time together very, very, very carefully because I don't know about you folks out there, but I just cannot get enough time with my wife. It is, I mean, when you've been married 29 years, it's hard to, I can't explain it to folks that don't know how I feel about my wife. But I can't stand being away from her for a day. I mean, after 29 years, we complete each other's sentences. I mean, it's like, I don't know, what do you say? After 29 years, we're not tired of each other. We only love each other more every day. And, you know, some people might say, boy, that's just sickening. You get so dripping with romance. Look, folks, I don't care what anybody else thinks. We have been through so much together that it's just, at a period of time where it's like, I mean, God just, he made us. And it's just amazing. It really is. So I'm very jealous of the time that I have to share my wife with the rest of the world. But yeah, we'll go tonight. We're going to eat some dinner, enjoy some company, and then come home. And then tomorrow's Friday. I cannot tell you, folks, how excited I am for the weekend. And, you know, I know the holiday season, everybody's looking forward to it. Christmas and then New Year's. But, we live for the weekend. I mean, it's like Friday, 5 p.m. cannot get here fast enough. It just can't. And so, yeah, we're going to do that tonight. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen, to tell you the story about a place where if you talk to somebody about Jesus, they'll put you in the slammer. Now, I don't know how many of you are planning on a trip to Nepal, but in 2015, the government of Nepal adopted a constitution that affirms freedom of religion. Now, there were a few restrictions on religious conversions. It's true. But now, the parliament has decided to assess criminal penalties for attempting to convert someone to a particular religious faith. The American Center for Law and Justice said Nepal has joined a number of other nations, such as India and many Muslim countries, in clamping down on religious conversion. The Nepal Constitution explicitly states that Nepal is a secular state that allows freedom of religion. Okay? So far, so good. Freedom of religion. Article 26 of the Constitution states, quote, every person who has faith in religion shall have the freedom to profess, practice, and protect his or her religion according to his or her conviction. Close quote. But subsection 3 also limits the same freedom by stating that, quote, no person shall convert another person from one religion to another or perform any act of conduct that may jeopardize others' religion. Close quote. The bill designed to amend and integrate prevalent laws relating to criminal offense enacted in October codifies those restrictions in a criminal statute. The law states nobody should hurt the religious sentiment of any caste, ethnic community, or class by writing, through voice, talk, or by a shape or symbol in any other such manner. Now, while the possible punishment for violating the law is 2 years in prison, if someone actually converts the religion of another person, or encourages such an act, the punishment escalates to up to 5 years in prison. The ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice, said both of the statutes severely limit Nepali citizens' right to express their faith, especially Christians, who can be punished simply for expressing their belief in Jesus Christ as the Son of God. Yeah, wow. And this is the 21st century? Such a statement could offend sentiments of Hindus because they believe in many other gods. The same statement could offend Muslims who do not believe Jesus is the Son of God. Furthermore, claims, let's see, there's Clause 160. absolutely prohibits sharing one's faith. A Christian could go to jail for 5 years for witnessing to somebody who's not a Christian. ACLJ contacted the Nepal government when the bill was proposed and renewed its concerns. In a letter to the ambassador, Arjun Kumar Karki, saying, "Our letter warns Nepal that such laws do not protect religious sentiments. Instead, they serve as a tool for religious persecution and a means to settle personal disputes through false accusations." The letter explains hundreds of innocent Pakistanis, including Hindus, Christians, and even Muslims, are serving long prison terms, and many have been extrajudicially killed by religious fundamentalists for allegedly hurting religious feelings of others under the blasphemy laws. Similarly, several Indian states have persecuted many Christians under their anti-conversion laws. Nepal's blasphemy and anti-conversion laws will not produce any positive outcome either. Instead, religious persecution will increase due to this law. ACLJ also argues that the laws violate international covenants, saying, "We hope that Nepal will look at the examples of its neighbors and see these laws for what they are, a tool for persecution, and take necessary and appropriate actions to amend, if not repeal, these laws." Now, folks, I want you to understand something. What they've done in Nepal is exactly what the political left wants to do in America. What the political left is trying to do in America by embracing Islam is they are trying to set up a scenario where they can then propose legislation that's supposedly aimed to protect the poor immigrants, the poor Muslim immigrants that are being exposed to all of this Christian rhetoric. You think it's not going to happen here, folks? The only way it doesn't happen here is if we remain diligent. If we remain diligent, that's the only way we keep it from happening. Okay? Now, there's one more story about Democrats. It's not that I want to focus on Democrats. I'd rather not, actually. They tend to make me sick to my stomach. But we're going to tell you about another means by which the Democrats are going to attack the duly elected president of these United States. We'll tell you all about it in just a minute. Stay with us.
If you agree with JJ's conservative pillars for rescuing America's economy, stay tuned for more. If you are a liberal and think everything is okay, you can go pet your unicorn now.
I've tried just about everything, and I can't seem to lose weight.
What if I told you there was something you could do?
Really? What? I'll do anything.
Eat less, move more.
And?
That's it.
But how does it work?
It's simple, really. You eat less food, and you move around more than you do now.
It gets more complicated the more you describe it. Isn't there a pill I could take?
Haven't you taken pills for dieting?
I sure have.
How'd that work out?
I'm fatter now than I've ever been.
So don't you think it's time to start something new?
Can't I just get a doctor to staple my stomach shut?
You'd rather have invasive surgery than lose weight by eating less and moving around?
At least I'd be asleep.
You want to lose weight, right?
Absolutely.
Then all you have to do is eat less and move more.
I don't know. How much will it cost?
Nothing. It will cost nothing. In fact, you might actually save money.
This is starting to sound like some sort of scam you do to an old person.
How much do you spend on groceries?
$350 a day.
Good Lord. Well, if you ate less, you could save up to $200 a day.
Or will I still have to move more?
Yes.
How in God's name will I remember all this?
Here.
Eat less. Well, this is sort of different from what you said before.
Turn it over.
Move more. This is a poorly designed pamphlet.
You know what, lady? I don't think you want to lose weight.
Bullcrap. You don't know me.
Listen, I gotta go.
Don't forget your pamphlet.
Try Keebler's new double stuffing marshmallow fudge sludgers. The Keebler-Elves love fat ladies.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
The cure for the common show. JJMcCartney.com.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's like tiny nails in the air poke my lungs. I start to cough. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
Today, 1 out of 13 children suffer from some form of asthma, accounting for nearly 1/3 of all emergency room visits.
I feel like I'm choking. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. A little whistle sound comes out when I breathe.
But while your child may suffer from asthma doesn't have to make your child suffer. There are simple ways you can prevent your child's next attack. To learn more, log on to www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA, the Ad Council, and this station.
Okay, we're back on the J.J. McCartney Show. And I thank you all for being here today. Phone lines are open at 855-853-5227. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you may have heard about this this week or this month that they've been talking about it. But today, federal regulators, the FCC, have abolished net neutrality. In heated hearings, the hearing was actually stopped because of a bomb threat as protesters rallied outside. Net neutrality is the principle that internet providers treat all web traffic equally. Obama-era 2015 rules prohibited telecom companies from blocking or slowing down apps that rival their own services. Now, the FCC's Trump-appointed majority has repealed the rule along party lines, and protesters descended on Washington to oppose the plan. One Democratic commissioner said Republicans were handing the keys to the internet to a handful of multi-billion-dollar corporations. Well, isn't that better than handing it to the communists at the United Nations? Isn't it? The Republican chairman said of the time before the rules were adopted, the internet wasn't broken in 2015. We weren't living in a digital dystopia. The hearing room was cleared briefly following a phoned-in bomb threat so explosive-sniffing dogs could be brought in. The United States Federal Communications Commission, voting, as we said, along party lines, repealed the net neutrality rules that were put in place under Obama. So there you go. I think that a lot of people out there were making way too much of the effect that repealing these ridiculous rules would have been. See, Obama wanted to hand the keys to the internet permanently to the United Nations, and what do you suppose they would have done with it? Well, they would have been regulating content. That's exactly what they would have been regulating. They would have been regulating this kind of content. What do you think they're interested in doing that for? It's because if they can't win in free and fair elections, well, then they just appoint czars. Remember that. Okay, elsewhere in the news. We mentioned this just a minute ago. Democrats activate powerful new weapon to pounce on Trump. This is from Alicia Powell at WorldNet Daily. Energized by Judge Roy Moore's defeat in Alabama's Senate election amid decades-old allegations of sexual misconduct, Democrats are now on a mission to take down President Trump. U.S. Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, a Democrat from New Jersey, who last month called President Trump, quote, absolutely disgusting and an embarrassment as President of the United States of America, who makes me sick to my stomach, is now demanding President Trump be investigated because of claims he sexually harassed women. Saying the allegations against the president and the fact that he even admitted to some behaviors that could be considered sexual harassment needs to be vetted. Representative Watson Coleman told WorldNet Daily, needs to be investigated by probably more than one agency, but most certainly the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, which does these kinds of investigations, and then the chips will fall where they may. Now, with regard with him being impeached, this is so ridiculous. With regards to him being impeached, there are nearly 20 women who have made these allegations. There has to be some fact-finding, some investigation that takes place. This will be one of the issues that we would put in for consideration for whether or not the president should continue as the president. Is that a fact? Well, tell me something. Tell me something, Watson Coleman. Where the hell were you when Bill Clinton was president? A group of 54 female Democrats, lawmakers, sent a formal letter to the chair of the House Oversight Committee, Representative Trey Gowdy, on Monday asking for an investigation of the allegations of sexual assault and harassment made against the president during the 2016 presidential election. And then, oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. You want to talk about some crazy people? Because there are some crazy people out there, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the letter from the Democratic Women's Working Group saying, in the time of Me Too, women across the country are coming forward with their own harrowing stories of sexual harassment and assault. Members of Congress have also come under scrutiny and investigation, with some resigning for improper sexual conduct. We cannot ignore the multitude of women who have come forward with accusations against Mr. Trump. With that said, the president should be allowed to present evidence in his own defense. Now, the Women's Working Group said 100 Democrats have signed the letter, and more are expected to join them in the effort. Where the hell were all of you during the Clinton years. Now, Trey Gowdy replied on Tuesday that he would not launch an investigation into sexual allegations against President Trump, explaining that it's the job of law enforcement professionals and prosecution to investigate crimes. Representative Ted Lieu of California, a Democrat, insisted that his call for President Trump to be investigated for sexual predation has nothing to do with partisanship. Sexual harassment is not a partisan issue. See, we proved that by getting Al Franken out of office. He said it occurs both in the private sector, the public sector, whether you are Democrat or Republican, whether you are working in media or business, it's pervasive. I believe the accusers, because there are huge disincentives to report, and there should be zero tolerance, whether Republican or Democrat. He said Trump should absolutely be investigated, saying, I happen to sit on the House Judiciary Committee. I think there should be an investigation and hearings. Lieu continued, but I would support, like with the other elected officials who are accused as well as anyone in the private sector, that yes, allegations of sexual harassment be investigated, even if they are decades old, or if they're just bald-faced lies. Representative Luis Gutierrez, a Democrat from the state of Illinois, launched into a tirade about Trump's accusers during Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's hearing on the Russia probe on Wednesday, describing in detail how Trump allegedly harassed and groped them. He said, "Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to ask you about sexual assault by the President of the United States of America. Over the past few days, echoing previous allegations made against the President in the past several years, at least 16 women have come forward to say that the President of the United States felt them up, kissed them without permission, put his hands under their clothing without permission, groped them, touched their genitalia, walked into dressing rooms unannounced to see them naked and make their other unwanted sexual advances that he, to everyone are clear violations of the law." He then pressured the second most powerful law enforcement officer in the nation to investigate the allegations against the president. No evidence, no witnesses. There's been no sworn testimony. But just because. And now I believe the women, and I generally give the women and their word a lot of weight, Gutierrez continued. And when the him in question is Donald Trump, there really should be no further discussion, because as everybody, regardless of their political affiliation or partisanship, can clearly see, we have a man in this presidency who has a very difficult relationship with the truth. Oh, my God. This is a Democrat from the state of Illinois talking about relationship with the truth? Wow. I mean, wow. In this case, he says, we have women who were made to feel powerless and insignificant, who at great personal cost and risk have come forward, and I believe them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is beyond stupid. What happened to Roy Moore was beyond stupid. And see, what they're doing now, all you have to do is go back to Bill Clinton. If they are truly committed to the idea of defending women from sexual predators, then they should talk to Kathleen Willey and Juanita Broderick and Paula Jones and Monica Lewinsky and literally thousands of other women. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is politics at its sleaziest being practiced by the Democrats. And, I truly believe that when all is said and done, every single one of these people that is calling on these investigations against the president is guilty of collusion. Guilty of collusion. Guilty of trying to negate the free and fair election of 2016. And isn't it funny how they're willing to ignore the flaws of the left? They're willing to ignore the flaws of Hillary and Bill and Chelsea. But when it's Donald Trump, then what they're actually saying is there should be a presumption of guilt on the part of Donald Trump because he's Donald Trump. And everybody knows that Donald Trump's an asshole. That's what they're saying. They're saying, prejudge this guy. Don't give him due process. But, Bill Clinton, he was the first black president. That's how little sense they truly make. It's sheer insanity, I tell you. My friends, I want to thank you for being here today. I want to thank Michael Cutler for being my guest. Tomorrow on the big program, we have the mysterious Colonel coming to visit, and we look forward to doing that. Meanwhile, I'm going to put my throat on some serious medication so that we can come tomorrow and deliver a top-notch radio program. Thanks to all of you. I appreciate all of you. Please share the program with your friends on social media. Help us get the word out far and wide. Because somebody has to tell the truth. Somebody has to defend the truth. And ladies and gentlemen, the truth is absolute. The truth is unwavering. And it belongs to God. The truth is sacred. And it must be defended against the liars, the fools, and the fanatics on the left. And quite a few on the right as well. Because politics, ladies and gentlemen, politics is what has no relationship with the truth. You know it. I know it. Even my dogs know it. Because they're smart. And because dogs rule, by the way. All apologies to you cat lovers out there, but come on, get real. Okay, my friends, be good to yourselves. And if you possibly can, be good to someone else. And remember, we will win in the end because there are more of us than there are of them. Because God is with us. And because we are all in this thing together. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll see you on Friday. Until then, God bless everybody. Bye-bye.